favorite weekly news-related podcast. Here we are, finishing off the year 2024 in quite a dramatic fashion. Plane crashes. We'll touch on a few past monthly school shootings, new pandemics that could be on the horizon. We'll start with the plane crashes. 5 days ago, a plane was downed that was leaving Azerbaijan. And then 1 day ago, a plane crash happened in South Korea, claiming 179 lives. So a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, the plane crash near Russia seems to have a lot of similarities to the previous plane crash near Russia. I think it was the Malaysian Airlines seemed to get shot down by supposedly by a Russian-supported group. This plane also seems to have some anti-aircraft symptoms. So it's not exactly normal for commercial airlines to be getting hit with anti-aircraft fire if that's what happened. Definitely concerning. It's definitely making you not want to take a plane in that part of the world.
And Putin's made a supposed apology, but not taken fault.
He never takes fault.
Which is a curious stance. He apologized, but he is not claiming that Russia was directly responsible. But supposedly investigations are still pending to the actual matter. But I don't know if you guys saw, but as soon as the plane crashed, I saw videos before the plane crashed and then immediately after of like the few survivors of like people filming the wreckage, and that was pretty fucking wild to see. And it did I mean, I don't know what exactly all plane crashes look like, but it did look like maybe there were some bullet holes or some kind of artillery fire evidence in those planes.
It's definitely sad, but I'm not going to be too mad at anyone for this. I mean, America's accidentally shot down military aircraft with our anti-aircraft before. Like, it happens. You know, anti-aircraft systems aren't perfect. Sometimes they target friendly vessels.
A fucking drone just ran into a commercial or a residential building in fucking central Russia, so I can understand why they're on edge. Yeah, that is pretty damning. I don't remember them being that small. That doesn't even look like anti-artillery. It looks like fucking rifle fire.
Yeah, it kind of does look like rifle fire, but I don't really understand how this could happen when something crashes. It doesn't look like.
No, that does not look like ground damage to me.
No, it doesn't. It also doesn't look like damage from a subsequent explosion or debris like that. You know what I mean? It doesn't look singed or anything.
I think the shrapnel, you're not necessarily going to get singed.
Maybe not.
Anti-aircraft goes off. It just like explodes in close enough proximity to shred it with shrapnel. But it wasn't very effective. If it was anti-aircraft fire, how come the plane didn't immediately go down? I guess it didn't get hit that bad regardless. But it got hit good enough that the hydraulics went out.
And that was on Christmas Day, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what's going on with all of the like random stamps on here, but this is a picture from the inside of the plane when they were going down. And there's a few things circled here.
Yeah, it would appear to be the cabin has suffered damage before the plane has crashed. So
they sort of look like bullet holes.
They're very small again.
Yeah, doesn't look like anti-artillery.
No, but is anyone in the cabin? Is there a video of this? Does anyone seem to be actively panicking if there were to be shot at and bullets traveling through the cabin? I don't think people would not notice that. I think they'd be noticing bullets traveling through the cabin of an airplane.
Wasn't that
you would think so?
The bullets, they might have not gone through the cabin necessarily.
They might not have, but that's just what I was showing in this picture was weird little holes in the cabin. That could just be like normal cabin damage too.
So what's interesting about these plane crashes is they both had hydraulic problems. So the one that crashed down in Azerbaijan, it lost control due to severe electrical and hydraulic damage. And then the supposed bird strike issue in South Korea also crashed with no working hydraulics.
So the bird strike caused other failures in hydraulics and brakes?
Well, what's really shitty about these plane designs, and this one I kind of put on Boeing, but it's probably not just Boeing. It's kind of.
You think it's Airbus too? Who are the two companies? Those are the two companies that make these large planes, right? Airbus and Boeing makes the 747s.
Equivalents.
Yeah. Right.
And Embraer makes pretty big jets, but not quite as big.
Not quite as large as these commercially, right? So what was the problem again? I'm sorry.
Well, with the one that crashed with the birds The planes rely on the engines for a lot of systems. It maintains like air pressure and hydraulic pressure. So when you lose an engine, a lot of things go bad. They have a manual release, so you're supposed to be able to let down the wheels and then do a little jerking maneuver and get the wheels down, but that never happened. So either pilot error or something suspicious was going on and the wheels did not get down, which made the landing a lot worse. Also, not having maybe a longer runway made things worse. The earth mound and concrete building that it hit made things worse. I mean, one report that it shredded the concrete building, which also shredded the plane. So
wait, it hit the wall at the end of the runway.
Yeah, I think the earthen mound probably did quite a bit of damage as well.
But it was a landing gear that failed.
And also, I heard they did not foam the runway, which sounds really bad. I know it's a big runway, but you think some foam would have been better than no foam when they knew they were coming down with no landing gear. So I'm not too impressed with how any of the authorities handled this operation.
Why does a runway end with a wall? I mean, a fence.
Yeah,
I see.
what a terrible idea.
I absolutely understand a tall fence with a high razor wire, whatever. A wall. I don't understand how that.
Yeah, they also have fences that are designed so that they actually slow down the plane. Like they're connected with wires, and the fence breaks and stretches and slows down the plane safely. They did not have that here.
I don't understand how a wall is a better deterrent for humans.
Well, I also heard in South Korea they share a lot of military and commercial airports share the runway. So sometimes there'd be like a brick wall with razor wire to keep you away from the military side, but that's not what the plane has.
Are there not other ways of lowering these kind of brake systems manually? Is the only way is through hydraulics? So in the evidence of a bird strike, which is obviously not rare in aviation.
No, it's not.
Is there no other? I'd imagine there's probably other fail safes to let's try to deploy brakes, right? Is there not some kind of like fucking just leave your U-pole that manually fucking drops that fucking shit? That can't be hard. I don't know.
No, they can.
But I see why Boeing is being investigated for this kind of shit. This kind of shit happens a lot. This is the fucking missing plane in Malaysia. Like, they've supposedly offed 2 whistleblowers, and they've only died under suspicion. You know, those deaths have been ruled suspicious. That's for sure.
That they have. There's John Barnett and Josh Dean.
Yep.
And there was a third one who,
really?
I don't think that he ever even testified. I think that he just got scared and bailed out.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, also Sully, when he crash landed because of birds, he was in an Airbus A320. Okay. So these birds are screwing up all of these planes. It seems like Boeing and Airbus both have terrible bird protection.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
I heard
there's not really any bird protection on any jet plane engines.
No, the bird protection is that supposedly they can like shred a goose without a problem. But when you get into like multiple birds,
like a flock.
Yeah, a flock, your turbine blades, like as soon as one turbine blade gets broke, it usually breaks off other turbine blades. And basically once your turbine is damaged, it's shitty. And I think that there should be like electrical battery backup systems for all the hydraulics. You should not be relying on hydraulic fluids to maintain your control surfaces, because that makes these planes very difficult to fly. They usually have like a little trim wheel by hand, but a trim wheel is not as good as control over all your flight surfaces.
At least we got a respectful bow from the CEOs from the airliner. Did you guys see that?
No.
It's kind of, I mean, it's a little bit adorable. You want to pull that up. They bowed for the losses. They did an apology bow. It's quite interesting. I mean, I don't quite, I don't totally understand South Korean culture, but it was like, is this the time?
It was from the CEOs of the airline? Of the manufacturers? Or was this the airlines?
There you go. Tell us, Levi. Who was it specifically?
CEO and executives of Jeju Air Bow. An apology after deadly South Korean aircraft.
Bow, not bow. Yeah.
So
they bow.
Bow. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Respectfully, an apology.
Yep.
Bow. Yes.
That's
Thank you.
A very gentle little bow.
You think that any of them will lose their jobs?
I
don't know.
Probably not.
Do you think they'll have to bow out?
I do want to talk about how strange the Azerbaijan case is.
Because is that what that is?
Yeah. It started from Azerbaijan, flew around Georgia into Russia.
Is that where it was destined?
No, the dash lines.
I think that it was. supposed to be going to this drop, this pin right here.
And then it was
And then
diverted.
it went all the way across the sea over to Kazakhstan. And then that last little bit in green here, we've got a close-up of it over here.
Is that where it was
And
supposedly hit and shot?
I have no idea, but it does look a little squirrely. It's not just heading straight to its final destination.
Keep in mind, when you zoom out on that farther map, I'm pretty sure all the dashed lines were where it's not being actively tracked on radar. So that's just estimating flight paths. So we don't actually know where the plane was.
That's when it was like they were flying blind or something. Okay.
Also, there was some allegations that they were victims of Russian GPS jamming, which makes a lot of sense because it's pretty close to an active war zone, and drones use GPS. So it probably did have active GPS jamming, which I'm sure didn't help the pilots anything.
Yeah, interesting.
But I don't know. My take on it is it probably got hit with some flak, and the plane chose to try to drive a pretty long ways to make an emergency landing, and it didn't go great. And based on that zigzag you were showing, I think that is very clear evidence that their hydraulics were fucked.
Putin was in Azerbaijan the 19th, honoring soldiers who died in Armenia. But is that any coincidence that he was there in person a few days before this?
A few days? Wouldn't that be like over
the 18th, 6 days before? Within a week.
Seems coincidental, but I don't know.
The 18th, he landed in Azerbaijan.
Well, giving them a plane crash is not exactly a great gift.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was a few months prior.
Okay.
Disregard that.
Well, the end result of this seems to be is that aircrafts are still made pretty bad. I think there's a lot of shortcuts being taken because it's just like one of those instances of it's industry standard. This is how we build them. Yeah. Sometimes it goes wrong. Oh, well.
Levi, really fast. Apparently, Joe Biden has made comments for the first time on that Azerbaijan airline crash 2 days ago. Would you pull that up? I just want to know what he says, and we can share that with the listeners.
All right, we'll start to get that clip pulled up.
I just haven't heard much from our president in a while. I often forget he is our president. I don't know why, for some reason, it currently feels like it's Kamala or just some cabal running into the ground before Trump takes over. But I want to know what this man, living corpse, said about it. Yeah, did you see? He's like walking or something, and a few.
Yeah.
Do you want me to send it to you?
No, I got it.
Okay.
We'll turn on the system audio so we can actually hear this man speak.
He's through C-SPAN or something. Yeah.
Could you guys hear anything? I'm having a really tough time hearing. Hearing what he said in that clip.
So the reporter said, "Mr. President, should Putin take responsibility for the plane crash?" And Biden responded, "Apparently he did, but I haven't spoken to him."
Sounds pretty lucid for Biden. That sounds pretty accurate.
And they asked, "Do you plan to speak with him?" But he proceeded to walk off, and that was all.
That was all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't even a prepared speech or anything. Somebody just managed to find Joe Biden in the wild.
Yeah.
Hard man to track down in the wild.
He really is.
Especially hard to ask unprompted questions too. That's a real struggle.
He might be a little less sheltered nowadays since his days are numbered.
Wow. The footage is pretty incredible. If you want to pull that up, of Azerbaijan.
Of the crash?
I'm going to send you a 22-second clip.
Okay.
So, what are your guys' take as far as like the Boeing angle of it goes? Are you pretty?
Well, should they be held to more to accountability for these kind of shit? Yeah, absolutely. And should they be probably further investigated for the South Korean flight? Yeah, I think so. Can we double check that plane was a Boeing, South Korea?
Yeah, I believe they both were. But
I believe they both were too, but I'd like to just double check. And then did you get that clip I sent you, Levi?
I'm getting it pulled up, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no. Where did you send it to me at?
I'm sorry. I'll send it to you right now on Twitter. Here it is. 22 seconds.
Yeah, these planes seem to be going down far too easy for what they experience. Yeah, it was a Boeing 737, the South Korea airline as well.
I'll mute myself for this plane crash.
Coming in hot. Oh, yeah. That was a bad landing. Didn't quite stick it.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking crazy.
Not quite as explosive as the South Korea one.
No.
And that Azerbaijan plane, I do not think that one was Boeing, but we had like 3 plane crashes in one day.
Really?
4 in a matter of 2 days. Yeah, it was. Planes have been coming down.
Yeah, I heard about an Embraer that crashed as well. And usually Embraers don't crash, so that was definitely concerning.
Jesus. Yeah, there's been quite a few major events quite recently.
The Azerbaijan plane crash, Boeing 737 in South Korea, an Air Canada flight that skidded off the runway. That one was also a Boeing. And then the KLM in Oslo after losing its hydraulics. 3 out of 4 of those were hydraulic issues.
The Azerbaijan was an Embraer, so that was another plane by a different manufacturer still crashing basically because of hydraulic issues. Even if it was shot out with anti-aircraft, still.
It was ultimately hydraulic
issues. It was ultimately hydraulics that brought it down. So I think
they need to be more safeguards around the failure of that.
Well, the thing that's so stupid about a hydraulic system is that they have like dual hydraulic pumps. So if one pump fails, they still have a hydraulic pump, but there's not much protection from a hydraulic leak. Like if you have one line cut, you usually just run out of hydraulic fluid, and that is
lose all your pressure.
Yeah, lose all your pressure. So the fact that like one leak will make your plane unflyable is a horrible design. There should either be mechanical linkage with like basic hydraulics that doesn't need fluid or something, or there should be motors and electrical battery backups. But I'm not okay with just hydraulics running these planes. I'm not a huge fan of fly-by-wire either, where your like computer gets a virus and you can't control the plane. That does not seem super great.
Speaking of viruses, what do you guys know about Stuxnet? Back in the day, this is like a 2010 thing.
I don't think I've heard of that before.
Heard a little bit about it. Is that a virus or something?
Yeah, Stuxnet was an incredibly complex computer virus that was able to do just about anything it wanted. It seems like.
Was that the NSA one that Edward Snowden leaked?
I believe he might have. It was targeting uranium machinery in Iran, machinery that was trying to like distill and purify uranium, but it got into the code, and then over like the first 2 weeks or something, it just looked at how the machinery operated so it could replicate that to make it look like it was continuing to operate appropriately, but it was actually increasing and decreasing the speed of the centrifuges. Yeah, so it made their entire nuclear program like blow itself up while it looked like it was operating
I think it only
effectively.
took out like less than 2/3 of its centrifuges. So I mean, it definitely did damage, but it didn't like destroy it. But it was an idea of let's try to destroy the.
It was like 10,000 machines or something crazy that pretty much ripped themselves apart because their centrifuges weren't operating correctly. And it was all just done through some sort of a hack. So there
also, what was impressive about that is that entire system was isolated from the internet, and they still managed to do it. So
yeah, it's speculative. I'm not saying that I even think that these plane crashes have anything to do with it, but could some sort of a virus hack the landing gear or the hydraulics? Probably.
Well, that's the thing about the landing gear, though, is there's a manual release, so you shouldn't be able to hack it. You just pull the handle, do your little maneuver, and fly it on out of there. But maybe if you were hacked and you couldn't do your little maneuver.
I think too many systems are reliant upon those computer systems, and so they're too connected in too many ways.
Going. Like, look at the new Tesla cars and stuff where you don't even have a real handle in the back of the car. And that's not just going to be Tesla. More and more manufacturers are doing that.
We're going to follow suit.
I'm not happy with this leaning on dependency upon electronics working properly, or else things go bad. You know, like a hotel that only has digital card readers. Well, what happens when somebody hacks those card readers? Now nobody can get in their hotel room. That's not great. And it's just more and more serious systems becoming dependent on these things.
Yeah.
It used to be we could have safe drinking water without computers. Not now. Take the computers away and we don't have any water to drink. We don't have any electricity.
Yeah, far too reliant upon them.
And the recent casualties are a couple of airplanes. Even if that technology is hydraulics, it's still reliant on a really specific piece of technology when there used to be manual alternatives that work reliably.
And I think that's the case for a lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the fact that older cars can survive an EMP, but new ones can't. Well, how's that an improvement? How did cars get better if, in the 70s they could survive an EMP and now they can't?
And why is the government stockpiling those cars? But yeah, we've
mentioning stockpiling, apparently they might be stockpiling millions of vaccines for the H5N1, or they always love giving these flu vaccines or these flu viruses a new number.
Okay.
So there's a woman talking about pushing Biden to stockpile and release millions of these vaccines for the bird flu. Because you don't need to test a vaccine for safety. It's okay to just make a vaccine and release them to millions of people now. And she also talks about, we have to worry about, children and pregnant women and the elderly. And it's like, how did children and pregnant women get lumped in with the elderly? Like, I understand you're old, you're dying, your immune system breaks, but being pregnant and being a child shouldn't give you a terrible immune system. You should still have a good immune system even when you're born. Like, you're tied to your mom in a pretty strong way. You share a lot of her immune system. So this whole, we need to vaccinate pregnant women, we need to vaccinate infants, I'm not buying it at all.
Yeah, I don't like that one bit.
No, I don't think a pregnant woman should get a vaccine, and I don't think an infant should get a vaccine.
No, especially when there's no human-to-human transmission of this bird flu. Yeah. None recorded. I also believe that there's been 0 deaths of Americans from the bird flu.
That might also be accurate.
And some people have gotten sick, but I don't think anybody's died.
Yeah, and they claim the old bird flu had like a 52% mortality rate, and then they don't want to mention the mortality rate of this bird flu because apparently it's really low. So just better to not mention it. They're saying it's got a grip on dairy herds in California, but I don't trust any of that at this point because it's just like the government can say that cows have a disease, and then they force the culling of millions of cows. So the government can just be like, well, we want to take away beef supply. So we're going to say every dairy cow or meat cow in America has to be euthanized. Oh, and by the way, you can't use the meat. So kill your cow and don't eat it. And I don't like that level of government control.
It's definitely happening with chickens because of this. Tens of millions of chickens have been killed, and I think that there's only been like 10,000 chickens that have been certified to have had any form of bird flu.
Yeah, and they might only have control over interstate commerce, so they might only be able to cull cows that are being shipped across state borders. But I'm sure with our modern supply chains that most meat you buy is not from your state, so they effectively can control the meat supply in America, which is pretty scary. I mean, I'm glad that Trump won and he's coming into office, so the possibility of them taking out our food supply I think is a lot rarer than if Kamala had won. But I'm still not a fan of that level of federal control. That the founding fathers never intended for the federal government to be able to control the food supply. It was to give us a bit of a military. That was pretty much the protect rights. That was the extent of it.
Yeah. Look how prolifically this is being shared on mainstream media. Just in Dark County, some obscure county in Ohio that I've never even heard of, and I live in Ohio, has had at least 4 articles just in the last 12 hours written about a million chickens that may or may not be affected. It's not constricted just to chickens either. Raw pet food, talking about cat food being infected. They're talking about big cats. Bird flu kills 20 big cats in Washington Sanctuary. Like you said, they definitely are talking about it being in cows. So tell me how this bird flu is affecting cows and cats and humans. That
They seem pretty
seems
unrelated, don't they?
seems pretty unrelated. I don't think that that's how viruses usually do their thing. And I think that if they do jump species, they're usually a lot less virulent, a lot less capable of spreading rapidly because the virus is kind of trying to figure out how to infect this new thing.
Dude, like a mule.
What is up with new viruses just coming around election time? It's election time. I'm just gonna, as a betting man, I should just start placing bets. There's gonna be a new virus for every, like, is that just a thing? New election, new virus. Like Delta, Omicron, bird flu, monkeypox. Is that just how we go
Maybe
now?
It's not the new election.
Who gives a fuck?
Maybe it's not new election, new virus. Maybe it's just new election. Let's cover a current virus and push it to the top, like they did with
new
Ebola.
distraction, a new distraction ploy. Maybe
we got to scare people again.
Yeah,
because that's what the whole thing they loved about Trump is he handled COVID bad. We had to get rid of him because you can't trust him during a health emergency.
Maybe it's spitballing. Maybe just keep throwing fucking diseases out there and see which one sticks and really scares them, and then which one really pushes them back in the houses and gets those masks back on.
But I think that's what they loved about global warming is that's what they used to discredit
and tax a bunch.
Well, sure that, but I'm saying that's what they really used to discredit the Republicans on science. Like before global warming, nobody talked about the Republicans not understanding science. That just wasn't a thing. And then after global warming, we're going to push this kind of radical idea that makes you change your entire economy and is based off of us only publishing our studies. And if you don't agree with that, now you're a science denier. And now they've kind of brought the vaccines in too, where the Republicans are like, oh, maybe these vaccines aren't necessary because we're giving millions of people unsafe vaccines or unnecessary vaccines. So now the Republicans are illiterate on science, on health, and the environment. They're just starting to stack these things on that make the right look more and more irrational, stupid, hick, creationist. I don't think that this is a coincidence. I think this is a very well-designed psyop that's built to vindicate the people on the left, to be like, look how smart we are, look how stupid they are. They can't understand women's rights, they can't understand health, they don't understand the economy, they don't understand healthcare. It's really built this whole narrative around that we haven't figured out, and they're retarded.
But I think, unfortunately, they fucked up with COVID, and now too many people are pissed off, and enough rational people had things happen to them, like people died in their family, and they weren't able to see them, and now they're resenting over that. People literally lost businesses that they built their entire life to make, and I know they're just genuinely pissed over that because they saw the bullshit and hypocrisy.
Yeah, they weren't essential.
Like, what the fuck?
Strip clubs were essential, but they
weren't. Like, I just lose my business. So people the second time around are not going to play the same shit they did with COVID, I don't think. They're not going to have the same numbers. Compliance is just not going to come as easy. And I'm really starting to like that sentiment, at least, where people are hopefully wising up to that kind of tyrannical bullshit. We're like, no, we will not take experimental drugs, and no, we will not be locked in our house for made up shit that just because you say on the news, like, no, that's not good enough.
But that's because COVID wasn't very deadly that you're saying all this and all this developed. If COVID really was that deadly, then things
COVID still somehow scared people, but I think they just didn't recognize that as the flu. I mean, does the flu kill people? Yes. Like, where was the flu death at those years? It didn't exist. But COVID, it still scared some people. There were still people walking around with masks. But
COVID was a little bit scary because a lot of the early news reports were talking about it getting into people's lungs and blowing up your lung cells, making it so even athletes could never.
People were dropping dead. There were reports of people literally just dropping dead. But it was all bull fucking shit.
I mean, the stuff I really heard is that people were ending up in the hospital and dying in the hospital. Once you got into the hospital.
But a lot of that was ventilators, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of that because they were put on ventilators. No, exactly.
And probably remdesivir played a role.
What was sad about that is I heard that was kind of standard care for influenza, and there were people who went through this years ago with just the regular influenza, the regular flu, killing people because they were putting people on ventilators. And the family members always listen to the doctors. So if you're not a son or daughter or in direct control, then you just have to watch your level and get murdered by doctors.
What are the chances this shit disappears upon Trump's inauguration? Upon subsequent months following his inauguration, rather. What are the chances of that? I would really like to just see like that just kind of go away. But then again, that was under the presidency that he did release the vaccine. So I don't know.
The Mpox.
COVID, they tried to do that like 3/4 into his presidency. So if they're really going to try to take him out with another pandemic,
you're right.
I don't think now's the time.
Well, this should be the preemptive strike, and so now it's already got steam going, and he has to it's too late. He has to just kind of run with it.
But if he does a good job handling it, it would make him look better.
He had it. I don't know.
If it's actually doing any harm to anybody, then maybe he'll have to deal with it. But otherwise, I think it'll just blow out of the news cycle.
Look how good Biden is fucking shit up beforehand, though, right? I mean, this guy's doing a pretty good, or doing his best to set this man up for failure, or just drive this fucking place into the ground before then.
I know you're referring to any support to Ukraine as just destroying Trump, but yeah, I mean, it depends.
No, I know, or fucking pardoning fucking child rapists and murderers, or
he didn't.
Pardoning his brother when he said he wouldn't. He's doing a lot of fucking shit, possibly starting World War III. I mean, he is fucking shit up, is he not?
Yeah, he did.
To really change much with the Ukraine situation.
Right.
He did pardon a whole bunch of people that had a whole lot of dirty deeds.
Do you not think that Trump could have better negotiated than Biden in some of these situations?
I mean, it just changes the starting point. What Trump said, he'd already have the war ended, according to Trump's own words.
I don't know about that, but I'm saying, do you or do you not think Trump can negotiate better than Biden? Yes or no?
In whose favor?
I'm asking you yes or no. Do you think Trump can negotiate better than Biden? Yes or no?
Trump has different priorities than Biden.
All right, so you're not going to answer me?
But
no, he's not.
For what?
All right.
Like you have to establish what you're negotiating for.
He did a pretty good job of keeping the peace during his election, I thought.
It's not just the people. It's not just the people that are noticing all of the inconsistencies around COVID either. There was a final report, a COVID select committee that went through the House of Representatives. They had a 520-page total report. Before we kind of dive into a little bit of what they found, do you guys want to entertain a minute and 20-second Simpsons clip?
Go ahead.
Clip from The Simpsons.
Banned off YouTube, but whatever.
Wait,
yeah, it's very
relevant.
It's very relevant.
Okay, I'll mute myself.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time.
That is smoking.
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on something that's in every household, something that people are a little bit afraid of already. House cat flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern. So petter beware, that warm body on your lap just might be ready to destroy your tender fiddles.
Man, do I need to start watching The Simpsons again? Jesus.
This one was from a pretty long time ago.
Wow.
They called it out.
Man,
big cats be dying.
They do every fucking time.
It is easy, though, when you have thousands of episodes to predict a lot, I guess.
Yeah, the whole media meeting and that this stuff has probably been happening for a pretty long time. I think that they're just a kind of on
It's a
point.
coordinated effort. Always, they use
Yep.
the same words and rhetoric. Always.
Yep.
I would absolutely believe that. Man, that was actually pretty funny though. I didn't think Simpsons was that spot on. I mean, I knew they predicted shit, but man, that was funny.
So as far as the real life stuff here, A few of the brief findings was COVID-19 most likely emerged from a laboratory in Wuhan. I wanted to cover NIH failures. Procedures for funding and overseeing potentially dangerous research are deficient, unreliable, and pose a serious threat to public health and national security. NIH, NIH is proof of the threat to public health and security, not the disease itself.
Wait, well, yeah, I was gonna say,
Their
what is
findings on
NIH?
COVID. The National Institute of Health.
Procedures
The World Health Organization. The World Health Organization's response to the COVID-19 pandemic was an abject failure because it caved to pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. Yup, placing Chinese political interests ahead of international duties.
Jeez.
The mask mandates, there was no conclusive evidence that masks effectively protected Americans from COVID-19. The vaccine.
Lockdowns. Wait, come on, touch on lockdowns. Go back to lockdowns, please.
Which one? Lockdowns. Prolonged lockdowns caused immeasurable harm, not only to American economy, but also to the mental and physical health of Americans. The particularly negative effect on younger citizens.
Let's go to travel restrictions.
President Trump's rapidly implemented travel restrictions saved lives. During Dr. Fauci's transcribed interview, he unequivocally agreed with every travel restriction issued by the Trump administration. Yeah, I guess a travel restriction was probably
go to
more
the misinformation.
effective. Wait, I've got a few that I liked. I had like 8 of them.
Okay.
The COVID-19 vaccine, contrary to what was promised, the COVID-19 vaccine did not stop the spread or transmission of the virus.
True.
Natural immunity. Public health officials engaged in a coordinated effort to ignore natural immunity, which is obviously acquired from getting the disease itself.
Wow.
And long-term impacts. There's that one. Long-term impacts. Standardized test scores show that children lost.
Just if our listeners want to know, can you answer that again?
This is the oversight.house.gov final report on the COVID select. The final report from oversight would get you here. Then you can read the entire 520-page report if it really strikes your fancy.
Yeah.
Children lost decades worth of academic progress. It was one of the long-term impacts because of school closures. And HHS obstructions was the last one that I wanted to hit.
Dude, there's no fucking apology for this.
No. HHS, which is Health and Human Services, engaged in a multi-year campaign of delay, confusion, and non-responsiveness in an attempt to obstruct the select subcommittee's investigation and hide evidence that could incriminate or embarrass senior public health officials.
Jesus.
So it's all coming out. Here it is in hard text.
Yeah. Yep. They can't deny it. Stop. Hey, it's okay.
Sure, they have an awful lot of proof of all of these claims in there too. It's 520 pages.
Yeah, they can't deny that.
So hopefully any pandemics moving forward will at least have to answer.
Be highly questioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad what fucking COVID did, dude. And now, yeah, what kind of mental illnesses it invented for people and caused, and oh Jesus, the effects are gonna be felt for so long. The fact that there's people still walking around with masks on.
The one that I'm really more worried about is kind of this recent news about mirror bacteria. They're saying that like 35 scientists wrote a letter to ban the research of mirror bacteria because it's too dangerous. So this is pretty technical, but like proteins are made from left-handed amino acids and sugars are made from right-handed parts. So essentially the mirror bacteria just reverses that. Proteins would then be right-handed and sugars would be left-handed. And our life and our immune systems are built with the traditional method. So kind of the idea and the worry is that if you synthetically made a bacteria that was the opposite, then no matter what that bacteria is, our immune system is just not going to be able to interact with it. Probably not going to be able to recognize it, not going to be able to fight it. So it might be pretty close to any bacteria being deadly and not being able to build up a natural immunity to it because it's just foreign. It's like alien life. It's like being invaded by an alien virus. And
Completely
sadly,
unrecognized by your immune system.
yeah, and sadly now our scientists just probably have the technology to create alien viruses. Like any virus that would be as dangerous as an alien species landing here can now probably just be made in a lab.
Oh joy.
Yeah, I mean, as if we didn't already have bad enough pandemics like smallpox and stuff that could be brought just from our own past. Now we have to worry about viruses from our alternate realities.
Or whatever can be printed with a DNA printer.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like essentially, like in an alternate reality where we're invaded by aliens, they bring us
Oh,
disease, and now instead of us having to be invaded by the aliens, they just skip that and just give us the horrible disease.
yep.
So, but I don't think they would do that probably until like, year 3 of Trump's presidency, because, you might as well have it actually be fresh in people's minds because people have horrible memories. So it's best to just use something recent. But then the other scary part of it is that it would basically be take our vaccine or die. So it gets to weed out all of the rebel makers, everyone who's like, maybe this pandemic was just to convince people who distrust the government to not take vaccines no matter what. And that way, with the next pandemic that actually maybe kills everyone who's not vaccinated and probably reduces the fertility of everyone who is vaccinated, then they just get, lower fertility rates. They still get some humans, and they get rid of all the troublemakers. It's not a good outcome, but if they can do it, would they? That is just kind of what you have to ask.
That is one of the most tinfoil takes I've ever heard you espouse, Adam.
Well, what's not so tinfoil about it is that, like, it's just one of those rules of if somebody can do evil, will they? If they're evil.
Yep.
And then you just have to ask, are the people running the world evil or not? I don't think they've always been evil. I'm not one of those people. But do I think they're getting more evil? Yes.
I don't know
robots and automation, who really needs humans anymore? How close are the rich to really needing us? It doesn't seem like us is very necessary.
No.
At least not
no,
this
it
many
doesn't.
of us.
A whole lot of useless eaters out there.
I've heard Andrew Tate say things like that, and boy, did they make a lot of sense. He said, what has happened to useless eaters anytime in history? Because, when the Genghis Khan was expanding, he didn't need those young male men to become enemies. It was better to just kill them and keep the women and children, or sell the women into slavery and, keep some of the children so there's people to raid in the future. But those young males, useless eaters.
Yeah.
Gone.
I doubt that the people in charge now are any really more evil than in the past. I think that there's just a lot of different ways that they can exercise their power. I think egotistical psychopaths are usually the types of people that rise to be some of the most powerful people in the world. But now you can do cyber attacks, you can do DNA attacks and pandemics, you can do all sorts of, you have so many options available rather than just going out and conquering the world by riding your horses across the continent.
I would push back on that in that if you look at our society, like people like Rudger and stuff, like said, we are a suicidal society, and there's so many things you can cite. You don't just create a suicidal society on accident, really. Like somebody had to push to create such a suicidal society that hates itself, hates its history, hates its gender. I think that there is evil people in charge who are doing very specific evil things. And I'm not saying that everyone in charge is evil, but there are evil people with power who are pushing a really bad agenda. And they seem
I'm
to be
going to push back on that too. I think that this was almost the exact same type of society that Weimar Germany had before Hitler came in. And like Hitler might have been a pretty bad dude, but he transitioned away from a weird communist transgender society to a starting to thrive sort of society. Everybody liked what he was doing.
Who said that society wasn't created on purpose? You had influential writers and
I'm saying it probably was.
There were still very, very evil people causing that.
I'm saying it probably was created on purpose, but I don't think that the people that created that society on purpose are any
But they
more
were
evil
not.
than the
They were
people
not. That
that
was
are
not the
today.
West. That was just one specific place that wasn't the West. Now we have the entire West adopting that suicidal ideology. So the fact that like the West is controlled by evil people, I don't think that's a historic norm.
And globalism, the new world order is coming. With the advent of technology and the internet, the evil people have a chance to be anywhere and everywhere at once, rather than just in one specific country trying to ride their horses across the continent.
Well, yeah, you can jet across the world like in 24 hours. It is a different time.
What's the final topic, boys?
The final topic is relating to these people jetting around the world. Apparently, some of them are doing some pretty weird shit. As far as predators, transgenders. These people in charge seem to have a kind of a dark underside, and sometimes just some regular people get involved too, like two dads that I think you had something to say about. If you could call them a dad, Dakota.
The gay guys that adopted their kids.
When was this?
I don't know exactly when it was.
It's been a while ago, but I've recently saw that it was breaking some headlines, at least on X.
Yeah, I only heard about it recently. Whoa.
They faced 100 years in prison. This was being reported 7 days ago. It was probably just because they were charged or sentenced that this kind of rebroke. Two Georgia men.
There we go.
I won't even say their names because they don't deserve it. Age 34 and 36.
Dudes.
Received life sentence for sexually assaulting their adopted sons.
And earlier this year, Russia banned homosexuals from being able to adopt children within the country. And you kind of see why. They also banned all satanic churches. And I don't know if those two are directly related, but part of me believes that the LGBTQ continuous, etc. of nonsense whole agenda is kind of a Trojan horse for just accepting pedophilia. That's what I believe. That's what I think their end goal is. Do they have other things they could do throughout that? Is kind of, destroying the masculine frame so there's not really a fighting force to rebel? Is that are also destroying the nuclear family? There's a lot of things throughout that, but I do think the ultimate goal is some kind of strange pedophilic, I don't even know, Sodom and Gomorrah, honestly. Like you said, where things were headed before society collapse, or either go to an extremely other direction of like nationalistic way. I don't know of other way it could go. And it's really gross and sad to see. And I'm just not surprised, like, degenerate people do degenerate things. And their acts are celebrated until the truth comes out. And it's fucking gross.
Yeah, I'll kind of push back on that. And I think the real agenda is just part of what you said about taking away manlyhood, breaking the nuclear family. But I think the trans is really close to the ultimate agenda, because I think the idea is that it's kind of about cultural collapse, depopulation, but it also takes away strong men when you have everyone trying to change their gender. But I think that, like, the type of instance we have, where there's a recent story about a boy in a locker room who said he was a woman, but didn't chop off his penis, didn't chop off his balls, and was naked in
what state? Can you specify? It was like Minnesota or something?
Yeah, it might have been. I'm not sure the exact state. You can look that up. But the point is that he was in the girls' locker room naked with his penis out, using lotion on his penis while staring at girls to prevent chafing. And I think all of us as men can safely say that we never felt a need to apply lotion to our genitalia to prevent chafing.
Whether or not we had or not, you don't do it in a public setting. That's for goddamn sure.
Like,
or around girls.
If you had to do that, you're going to go to a bathroom stall. You're not going to do that. Like, my entire time in a changing room in middle school, I never saw one penis. Like usually there wasn't a need to change your boxers. So there's just no excuse for having your genitalia out in the locker room. There's also no excuse for a man being in a woman's locker room.
And it's a failure of all the adults in charge. And all the adults in charge should be reprimanded.
Yeah, the fact that no one is going to jail is wild, but also
schools should probably just be shut down ultimately. If they're too
I don't know about that.
Too accepting of this, the county is probably troubled from the start. But yeah, I do want to push back on their agenda. They literally chant and march down the street, "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children." I mean, they chant it, they say it. It's them.
But them coming for your children can also be them just trying to get your child to deadman themselves and cut off their dick and turn into a woman or whatever. I'm not saying they still might not abuse them.
In what way does that not involve them in some way talking or doing sexual things to your child, or just talking about sexuality to your child? They're here, they're queer, they're coming for your children. They can't have children of their own. They need other people's children, and look what they do with them.
Well, look what's a very small minority of them.
You don't know that.
I don't think it's right to just call like all gay people pedophiles. That is really...
What percentage of pedophiles identify as gay people? Identify as LGBTQ? I would wonder.
I don't know, but
I would be very fascinated to know.
Assume it would be less than 50%.
Yeah, I don't know if you can find metrics on that.
I don't know if you can either, or accurate ones.
Yeah.
But
I do think that...
Look at the news coverage that the Madison, Wisconsin, the Madison Christian school church shooting got. I think fucking 5 people died.
I'm definitely on Dakota's side of this issue, not necessarily for the reason that he is, but I wish I knew the lady's name.
What is the reason I am? For observation and hearing the things they say?
Yeah, no, I shouldn't have framed it that way. But look at the lady that was on the PBD podcast, and she was saying that at 9 years old, she was taken to put on a sexualized performance for a whole room of like the billionaire type peoples. At 9 years old, this is a woman that was being trained to know the sexual whims of men based off of like an internal understanding because she was tortured if she didn't get it right. So that it feels like that's a room full of people in charge, and they very clearly wanted pedophilia to be a normalized thing. That seems like the agenda. This is just a slow shifting of the Overton window with that as the end game.
Look at the Balenciaga. Look at the Balenciaga. These high-end brands almost advertise to it and cater towards it and sprinkle it in their advertisements. It's gross. But but it's like those trans people, they're still a protected class. It took the Wisconsin fucking news police people fucking it took them 4 hours to identify their gender. Like it matters.
Like it matters.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Supposedly it was a boy that identified as a girl, Samantha. Or a girl that identified as a boy, I'm sorry. 17-year-old. And they posted a manifesto. I don't think we are going to have access to it ever. Just like the other previous trans school shooting. They might have released little snippets of it. And it's always some short snippets they do show. There's always some kind of underlying tone of just like hating towards men, hating towards the underlying masculine patriarchy. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But it was a biological woman this time. Wasn't that also the case, though, with the prior one? It was a biological woman who had maybe taken testosterone and was trying to placate being a trans man.
In Nashville?
The one that they came in and they shot and killed. This one, I believe, took a life. Also a woman, right? Being a man. I'm not positive.
Yeah. I found 3 cases of this prior to this one. It was in Aberdeen, Denver, and Nashville. So there's not a ton of them to choose from. This is probably only the 4th occasion where a tranny has shot up a school.
Yeah.
I heard about those ones on some obscure podcast called like Girlish, and they were making the very liberal argument that this is such a small number in comparison to the total number of mass shootings that it's irrelevant even compared to the tranny population. And I thought that was an interesting argument. So I tried to look into it and see how founded they were. I want to show you guys what I found.
Okay.
So I should start here. So there in the last 10 years have been like 4,200 some mass shootings, but mass shootings are anywhere. Yeah, 4,283 with 4,298 victims and over 17,000 wounded. If we
Jesus.
just go, yeah, so this is just in America too. This is not an uncommon thing. If we go to just school shootings, and this is not even necessarily meaning anybody died, this is counting every possible incident of a bullet going off in a school.
Okay.
Starting in 1966, we see a huge spike in the problem starting around 2018, and then the last 4 years in particular, it has been off the charts, like more than twice as high as where the beginning of the problem even started.
Yeah.
But it breaks these down by situation. And this is where I think that the data actually becomes interesting, because almost all of them are an escalation of a dispute, which is usually how shootings happen in the world. People get into an argument and it
It
escalates. And,
escalates.
yep.
Yep.
Then this one right here is where I think the trannies would fall. An indiscriminate shooting. There have only been 136 instances of indiscriminate school shootings in the period that this took place, which is all the way going back to 1966.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 4 now trannies out of possibly only a total of 136 incidents, and this is looking at all of the data. So that's a pretty fucking high total percentage if 4 out of 136 random school shootings, indiscriminate school shootings, are trannies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's well known if you look into it that most school shootings happen in poor neighborhoods. I think it's just essentially disputes, and the rates of African American perpetrators and those type of school shootings are a lot higher than the media would want you to hear, because black on black crime is just a topic that the left won't touch. So it doesn't really matter if it's adults or kids, it's going to get swept under the rug. So that how the media covers these school shootings is how they want to cover it. That's kind of the sad part.
Yeah.
Because I'm just as sad about a school shooting in a black neighborhood where some black kid shoots 2 or 3 people. That's a shame. No kid should have to die going to school. It should be a safe environment where you can go and you can learn, and you don't have to worry about somebody pulling a gun on you. So, and honestly, like, it's not cool to have to go through metal detectors and stuff like that. But if that's what it takes to go to school safely, I guess, like, that's just the way it's got to be. If you're at a district where there's regularly school shootings, that just shouldn't be tolerated. And walking through a metal detector is not that big of an invasion of your privacy. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. It's not any different than going through the exit of any supermarket where they scan for stolen items. So
I agree with that.
Yeah. Also,
it's very passive.
Magnetism isn't dangerous to your body. It's not giving you cancer. So just, keep school safe. Just like this school shooting with the trans wouldn't have happened if they just had like a metal detector at the door and a security guard. Schools cost so much money that having one armed security guard at every school would not be that difficult. And they don't have to just be sitting there. They can be in like a fucking bulletproof booth monitoring the the thing. And if anyone tries to go through and isn't stopping, well, then they know what to do. If it's going through and it's beeping, they're going to have to take care of that.
Yeah.
Make sure that they don't get drawn on first. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, it's just the liberals are like, oh, there shouldn't be guns. It's like, okay, well, we live in the real world. We don't live in what theoretical world we could have if nobody has guns. So make real solutions that can work soon.
Yeah.
And that's honestly just a pretty easy way of doing it. And not to mention that there's always an armed person there at the school. So if the shooter does break into another door somewhere, then you can have, shot spotters. That's not complicated technology. They instantly have a phone app where they can see any shooting in real time with a map of the school on what floor. That's just really low-end technology at this point.
And I think schools kind of all places to just serve the technology to protect children.
Yeah, absolutely. But also protect children in the locker room from people showing off their genitalia. That might not be a high-tech solution, but that is a solution that you can't just ignore girls' complaints when they don't feel safe.
But I think both problems ultimately will come down to mental health, maybe the family structure too. Like, these things need to be solved. Culturally too. But
also just the
yeah,
whole
man,
acceptance
mental
of
health.
anything, that's got to go. Like there needs to be cultural norms. They need to be enforced. We need to be okay.
We need to recognize what is harmful. Like
things like
what is the rate of suicide with these trainees too, though? You know what I mean? I know pretty
Yeah.
high.
Way higher than the
They're
average.
one of the most suicidal groups out there.
They are.
So outside of
most
like
of these,
cultists.
yeah, most of these trannies are mentally unwell children.
They do have the highest suicide rates of any group.
And they're on a lot of drugs. Their hormonals are unbalanced.
Yeah.
They're at the most hormonal point of your life, right?
Yeah.
Like, I just remember growing up and being told, like, hey, this is basically the worst time. This is going to suck.
Bad, but
no, hey, it's different for us.
Yeah.
We are guys. We're not girls. I know it's a lot different for girls. Maybe it's different for more feminine guys. I don't know. But, I mean, some shitty acne did suck. And voice cracking was terrible. Hey, look, I'm having it right now. But it's never fun. But I don't think it's safe to have these kids on mind-altering drugs, hormonal changes, and, man, God forbid, gender surgeries. I mean, that's truly horrific and an evil act that hopefully Trump is going to get in there and immediately fucking ban. I mean, that was one that I was really going for him on.
It at least has to be raised to like the age of consent. Like you cannot have it below 16. That just.
I also just don't want my tax dollars paying for. That should be a cosmetic surgery. I don't think my tax dollars should be going towards that kind of garbage, personally.
Well, Kamala apparently wants it for illegal citizens.
She wants it for prisoners, people in jail, so they can be
she ran on that
and rape people.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That was something she actually ran on. Let's use your tax dollars to provide gender transition surgeries for illegal immigrants that we're paying for in our prisons.
Yep. It ultimately leads to the rape of some prisoner or the sexual assault of some horrible child or the abuse of their mind, the warping of their mind. And
well, I think what it is
terrible.
If we say something's okay, you have to be okay with seeing it. So like they say gays are okay, so they put dicks in your Netflix shows.
It was before then,
it doesn't
right?
matter if you want to see
I also kind of think it was maybe it's kind of like as the culture of gays, they get bored with acceptance. We gave them marriage. Okay, they're fine with that. And they pushed it farther, right? Maybe this is a constant slow burn, right? And then we'll have parades about sodomy, and we were fine with that. We put them in movies, like Adam said. We put them in TV shows. There's one in every show. Every show has to have a gay person in it. Yep. And now it's literally like take your kids to fucking tranny strip shows and have drag queens come into your fucking school and talk to them about sex. And there's books about molestation and gay acts in schools
with graphics sometimes.
And it's like the water, the frog will jump out of the water if you throw it in boiling, but if you slowly turn that heat up, it's not going to notice.
I don't think that's absolutely true, but I get your point.
It is true. That's how you cook a frog. But it's sad. It's like that's maybe I think what they've done with society is just try to like slowly get this. And I mean, I think the end goal is them trying to make some kind of gross pedophilic shit accepted.
I would actually blame the media more so than just gay people, because I think that the very, very loud people were explicitly given a voice. That was like when cancel culture became a big thing, and then since that sort of fell out of favorability, it's not really working anymore. And now they have to find a way to platform a different.
They are one of the most protected classes, though, gay people, more than African Americans. They have their own flag. They're flying flags where nations' flags should be.
Yeah, they were given like an entire month, Pride Month.
What? What is Brett? Ellen was given like a fucking Nobel Peace or some fucking award of honor or bravery. What the fuck?
Ellen's been gay forever. She never really was allowed to be loud about it until it shifted to the point where it was.
It didn't deserve an award. Whatever her plight was, it didn't deserve an award. No one's sexuality does. I think we can agree on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Don't
and
think
being brave and fake oppression does not make you a hero either. Like you can't just invent oppression and then be celebrated for resisting it.
People have tried. Look at Jesse Smollett.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of afraid you guys are using like a kind of a Trojan horse of like hate speech on X making it harder to fix issues? Because I've never met any gay person who supported pedophilia. So you saying that they're all pedophiles and pushing pedophiles is just going to make anyone who's
no one is outwardly pedophilic.
It's going to make all the allies just feel like you're retarded because they don't know any allies who support that. So
that's not my stance.
You tried to look it up and say it was being added to their flag, and then you couldn't find any legitimate site that actually had that as part of their flag because it's just fake news on X and it's.
I never said that.
True. I know Levi claimed they were trying to add it to the flag. I'm pretty sure.
Add what to the flag? Add what to what flag?
To it, adding it to the pride flag.
I'm not even aware of pedophile symbol.
Adding their definitions of like minor attracted classes that
minor attracted persons. Yeah, that's basically being legalized in California. It basically is being legalized to be a minor attracted person in California.
That up and you had that information wrong. It was changed.
No,
you're wrong about that.
No, it is dead ass. You can buy a minor and get a penalty of a misdemeanor in California. You don't even get jail time. You don't even get jail time for purchasing a minor in California.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. It is literally true.
No, because owning somebody would be considered instant kidnapping, and you would be charged for kidnapping. And
not if it's an illegal alien or whatever.
You're looking at an extra charge. They can still charge.
I don't know if this is true. Wait, can we verify this somewhere with AI or something? Can we verify this?
Sure, go ahead and verify because you're wrong about it. So I think that's how we start to make real outreaches by giving accurate criticism. There's a lot to criticize the LGBTQ movement for without having to try to criticize them for something that they don't accept.
The MAPS, minor attracted persons, is a narrative that's being pushed. It's being pushed not only in California, but
I've heard plenty of times.
also in Tim Wall's home state. Tim Wall is the man who was supposed to be our vice president.
I'm sorry?
Tim Wall is the man who was supposed to be our vice president, was pushing for very similar types of laws in his home state.
Very similar. So you're not going to say that he was pushing for that?
It's been a while since I've brushed up on that.
I don't mind attacking these people, but let's just do it accurately. Don't just make up lies about anyone.
That's not a lie. In California, you only get a misdemeanor for purchasing a minor.
But that is one specific charge in which you'd be charged for a dozen others.
It was downgraded. They specifically changed the law. It used to be a felony, and they downgraded it to a misdemeanor with a maximum fine of like $10,000.
No, I do not believe that.
No jail time. No jail time. Maximum penalty of like $10,000. They downgraded it.
Because you're looking at one add-on crime. They're going to charge you with a bunch of other crimes.
What the hell else? Why would they downgrade that, Adam?
I think you're wrong that they actually downgraded that. I don't even think that is true. So we can talk on the topic talk on a related topic for a few minutes while you try to verify that, because I think you're wrong about every single one of those points.
It's going to be difficult to verify in a couple of minutes. Maybe if I get the full verification, I can next time.
Table that for another episode.
Perhaps we can, but just right off the cuff through Meta AI. In California, the maximum penalty for purchasing a child, also known as child trafficking, can vary depending on circumstances. However, under California Penal Code, human trafficking, including purchasing a child, can be punishable by 12 years in state prison, $500,000 fine, registering sex offense. I mean, this is sounding, federal charges potentially lead to harsher penalties. None of that sounds pretty
like a misdemeanor.
No, none of that sounds like a misdemeanor to me.
Yeah, it was as
you
of this
careful
year.
About your sources.
It happened in like September of this year. It genuinely happened.
No, what you're talking about.
I had like an hour-long conversation with a guy on TikTok about it, and we went through the fucking actual law. Like, I'm very, very sure about this.
Yeah,
I'll find it for next time.
I tried to verify that.
Can we just table it, please? We can do further research. We can table it. I would appreciate to table that. But I wasn't putting names in anyone. I was just trying to project where I see this movement ultimately going based on where it's been in the past. That's all. To where it currently stands and where it's been, and the trajectory and escalation and how that works with people. That's where I see it going. That's just my personal belief. That's all.
Well, backing it up
and the confirmation from people that have been in the literal sex trade, like to paint a very clear picture of how this is being progressed.
Movies like Sound of Freedom make me believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, another unfortunate fact about it is that a lot of gay people have been sexually abused as a minor, and it seems to turn them gay at a very high percentage of rate of the minors who are sexually abused, especially by their own gender. Does seem to cause gayness.
I don't know. I don't want to say that causes the gayness, Adam. That sexual abuse necessarily causes gayness.
It sure seems to be common. I mean, it's really hard to find another rational explanation for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're also taught Freudian psychology in our school system, and it's very, very likely that Freud was gaslighting children who were being touched
Molested,
by their parents.
raped,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, oh, it's okay. You're thinking that this happened because you're actually attracted to your parents. And so
What?
you're
This has been taught in
making
school?
Freud, Freudian
Oh,
psychology
Jesus.
is the base of psychology that's taught in school. It's like a major part of your psychology class.
That goes against like basic biology, which says that you like have chemicals around your family that make you not sexually attracted to them. Like the people who you are with at the very young age, you should not be sexually attracted to. It's just basic protection.
Yeah.
It's basic protection from inbreeding.
It's like chemistry.
Yeah, it's something
biological chemistry.
So, yeah, dude's a retard when it comes to that aspect. That does sound like some very psyop stuff to me.
We've got a commenter who said that their friend was trafficked in the Hilton in Hollywood.
That's extremely unfortunate.
Yeah.
Many in Hollywood are involved. Yep.
Yeah, I think that Freud was a pedophile. I didn't think that when I was back in high school, but shit, man, looking at it from a different angle now.
And stuff. I mean, the people who started these trans movements, I mean, they're absolutely fucking pedophilic.
Maybe Fauci.
Probably.
Did you hear about some of the experiments he did on kids? Like this was like pretty sure that this stuff is very verified and was like in publicly released documents. But he was doing studies on AIDS kids and treating them like just straight mice that he could kill. And multiple children in his studies died. And they were just treated absolutely horrible with them trying to like do everything to find a cure for AIDS and not giving a damn about how they treated anyone in the study. And they were like, it was really weird. They were using like the foster care system and trying to get like close to guardianship of the kids who were in their study. And it was some very like cultish, evil stuff going on. That is some of the worst stuff that I've ever read about Fauci. People want to talk about him paralyzing dogs, and it's like, geez, sounds like he was paralyzing kids. Like, I'm not saying specifically paralyzed, but just as bad. So those type of people being in charge of our healthcare system, that's a little scary about how the people on top think about us. And it really seems like the people on top think about us like just animals.
That is kind of what it seems like.
Yeah, it's extremely unfortunate.
Here for their amusement.
But not just animals that they can take advantage of, but animals that they can fundamentally like break. Like that's what I think all this trans stuff is about. Is like they're trying to break the human spirit. They're trying to break the human biology. They want to make us weaker and more subservient and sick.
Yeah.
Media becomes God. Like that kind of like just entertainment.
It's not working very well.
Self-fulfillment.
They don't really care about traditional media much.
We're starting to lose interest in it. That's for sure. But
it's kind of more about what trends on TikTok or whatever.
But hey, again, like that's still to some extent the same thing. I mean, these people are still.
But look at what Congress
fame.
is trying to do with TikTok. I feel like one of the reasons why they said that TikTok had to be sold to like a Western country, or else we're going to ban it. And a lot of people on both sides of the aisle seem willing to ban TikTok because it's not controlled by them. So maybe that's just like, well, if we're going to brainwash America, we want to brainwash America.
I can definitely.
We don't want China brainwashing America because then we don't get our power.
Yeah.
So it's definitely concerning how they seem to want control over our content. And I also think it's really concerning about how the governments are trying to like declare any country that doesn't have a minimum corporate tax rate as like a terrorist. They want to like put sanctions against any country that doesn't have a minimum corporate tax rate. So it's like, hey, we're going to steal a portion of your wealth so that you will never prosper. And if you fight it, we are going to hurt you. Like we're going to try everything we can to make sure that you suffer if you don't play with our game of what we're trying to move society towards. It's just like, you know, like they don't care if Alex Jones has trouble using a payment processor. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
sure.
if you can never use a bank again.
Yeah, like nobody can buy for his services with a Visa. I'm not saying they can't, but the point is they try to make it hard for people like this. It's really easy for I guarantee you, if he signed up for PayPal, he would get his account shut down. No question in my mind. It's like, we don't care if people who don't agree with us have access to financial services.
Yeah, and it's not even about and they've said it before. This is not even about getting justice for the people. This is about shutting a certain person.
And we don't care if you have access.
We don't like what he says. Shut him up.
We don't care if you have access to health services. They could pass a law that you can't go to the hospital unless you're vaccinated. Or that where you literally
because you become a danger to other people.
Yeah, you literally couldn't go to the hospital without a mask. It's like, oh, well, I have asthma and I have trouble breathing. Too bad. Put on a mask. We don't care if you can barely breathe. Put on a mask, or you would not walk in the door.
Yeah.
It's definitely what we're moving towards does not seem healthy for us.
No. Oh, snap. What did I do? I lost it. I was just going to show a picture of Thomas Jefferson and a quote that he had, but I lost it.
Nah, that's too bad.
Yeah, we tore through all of our topics pretty well. I definitely feel like this is a good one to expand and close out on, though.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
The attack of the culture and where it's headed and what we can do to stop it.
Any predictions for the New Year's, guys? Here we are wrapping up the New Year's. We have only a couple of days. I mean, it's December 30th, but basically the end of the day. And days, it's all in the Bible. It sort of feels like it.
Rather than a prediction, I have one random musing that I think should at least be in our realm of consciousness, something that we should think about. Smart dust, network of tiny sensors that can collect and transmit data from their environment. This is the Google AI overview.
That kind of sounds
Smart
cool.
dust sensors. It kind of sounds cool, but
where
is this being used? Smart dust sensors can detect and measure things including light, temperature, vibration, magnetism, chemicals, air pressure, humidity, movement. Where are these? Why does this? Is this what's being put in chemtrails? Man, I don't know.
Dust can be smart now. Who knows?
Maybe.
I'm not scared of dust. You're not making me scared of dust. What the fuck? No, man, I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting year. I think 2025. This year ended pretty crazy, just with all the stuff that really started going off so quickly.
I think 2025 has to guarantee to be interesting, just because we have Trump coming into office. We have the fact that AI is improving at a very
rapid rate. Yep.
It's seeming like by the end of next year, it seems unlikely if intellectually 90% of jobs won't be able to be replaced by technology. Like, whether companies choose to enact it will be their choice, but will a robot be able to do like any remote job by the end of next year? I think so. Like maybe a few minor fringe, coding or nuclear researcher like exceptions, but overall, I think humans are going to be pretty useless. Like we can still do
for technological types of jobs. Yeah, anything that can be done on a computer will probably be able to be done by AI very soon.
More efficiently and far cheaper.
And you'll be able to talk like a human in any language. You'll be able to communicate via
any job over the phone is done.
And hopefully in 21 days, Donald Trump does take office, but I'm still crossing my fingers in hopes of that he doesn't get pew-pewed before he takes office.
Knock on wood. They're doing a lot better protecting this man.
They have been, yeah.
I'm not very worried about the transition of power. I think if they didn't want Trump in office, they would have done more fake mail-in ballots. I think the choice has been made for Trump to be tolerated for whatever reasons, whether it was going to be too risky to cheat or mainly just because they had other plans. Like,
the world is a stage.
Like, look at how much more power they gained when Trump was in office last time and they did the scandemic.
And the funny thing is,
it worked out really well.
With Kamala seemingly on the rise and Biden in office, the right was almost kind of more together. But now that Trump is people seem to be a little bit more divided again. Seems to be a little more factioned.
You mean like even among the right or something?
Yeah. Yeah, they're disagreeing about who he's choosing.
Yeah, McConnell's fighting.
People are getting mad at Elon immediately about this fucking border stuff. That's just going to divide the fucking
immigration,
the Republicans. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a ride for him. That's for sure.
The main reason I'm not concerned about anything happening to Trump at this point is just Vance is more conservative from Trump from everything I've seen. He's also younger and better health, less manipulable as far as like his health is good and he's not going to get senile in office, and he's more anti-abortion than Trump is. So it seems like their political agenda would not get that much further by getting rid of Trump because he can't run again. Like Trump's a lame duck. No matter how good he does, he can't keep power. So what is the advantage of killing him? Versus if you do kill him and now Vance becomes president, now Vance is going to have 4 years to do a good job and be on really good grounds for re-election for the next, he could run the country for a lot more years.
Perhaps Trump is easier just to control in office and out of office.
I don't know about that. I mean, you have a lot of power when you're the president.
Yeah, but when you're busy dealing with a war and a pandemic.
I don't think the war is going to occupy too much of Trump's attention.
I guess we'll find out.
I guess we'll find out.
I guess
as long as he makes it there.
Make a prediction.
I want to give a quick shout out to Tulsi Ann for being the first person who's ever commented live on our show.
Yeah,
it'd be much appreciated if you give us a follow, and we post once a week.
Yeah, Tulsi Ann, we'll answer any questions, or if you have any suggestions and topics, we'll be happy to hear them. But yeah, I think this would be a good time to wrap up.
I think so.
Maybe a quick prediction of what you think Trump can do for the Ukraine war. Do you think he can end it like he says he can?
Of course.
I think him and Putin have just a history of a lot better communications and dealings, so hopefully that can get figured out just a lot quicker.
I think it would have already been figured out if Biden didn't issue the attackums and make sure that we were escalating the war while Trump was able to try to do anything about it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
I definitely disagree with that. Wasn't the attackums released after like Trump had already been elected for enough days that he should have already been able to call Putin and have the war ended if that was actually a possibility?
It was constant escalations the whole time.
Yeah, but I mean, Trump was aware of constant escalations this entire war when he made the statement that he could end it in his first few days as president-elect.
He said that he would end it while sitting. That before taking office. I don't think that he ever said within a few days.
He said he'd have it done in a few days. But
no, he said he would have it done as president-elect, which is now looking pretty difficult. Sweet. Well, I will see you boys next week.
All right, sounds good.
Yep, I'll see you guys next year. All right.
Oh, yeah, true.